Welcome, everyone, to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that feels like it's straight out of a science fiction movie, but I promise you, it's absolutely real. We're going to look at the complete future story of life on Mars. I want you to imagine a reality where humans, maybe even someone watching this very video right now, will soon wake up every single morning on a completely different planet. Because right this second, somewhere in a factory in Texas, a rocket is literally being built. And it's not being built just to visit Mars or to orbit it. It is being built to permanently move humans there. The timeline? Well, the man building it says the first humans will land there before 2030. That means within your lifetime, people are going to be breathing manufactured air, drinking recycled water, and looking up at a sky that isn't blue but pink. And the ultimate endgame scientists are shooting for? Eventually being able to walk outside without a spacesuit. Chapter 1, The Imperative. So you might be wondering, why Mars? Why not just stay put here? Well, because Earth, for all its amazing comforts, is actually pretty fragile. A single catastrophic event could wipe out human civilization. We're talking a large asteroid, a nuclear war, a superbly engineered virus, or even a supervolcano eruption. Any of those could wipe us out in a flash. Elon Musk put it pretty bluntly, saying, I want to make humanity a multi-planetary species because all our eggs are in one basket right now. And Mars? It's just the best option we have to solve that problem. It's got a 24-hour and 37-minute day, which is almost exactly like ours. It has seasons, it has ancient riverbeds that suggest it used to have liquid water, and crucially, it has the essential resources we'd need to survive. Frozen water underground, carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and iron oxide on the surface. Chapter 2, The Brutal Journey. Getting there is no joke. Mars is not just around the corner. You can actually only launch when Earth and Mars are properly aligned, and that specific window only opens up once every 26 months. And at its absolute closest point, the distance is a staggering 54.6 million kilometers. At its farthest, try 401 million kilometers. Because of that massive distance, the journey is going to take anywhere from 6 to 9 months. I really want you to just imagine that for a second. Being stuck inside a spacecraft for up to 9 months, you have absolutely no fresh food. You're breathing recycled air and drinking recycled water. You're being bombarded by extreme solar radiation. Plus, the microgravity is slowly weakening your bones and your muscles. And that's not even mentioning the psychological toll of being millions of miles away from home. But here's the crazy part. The plan to get us there is scaling up massively. SpaceX's Starship is currently being designed to carry up to 100 Pioneer astronauts per trip. And their ultimate goal for the ticket price? Just $100,000. Basically the cost of a small house. Now, the first missions are only going to carry a handful of brave pioneers. Scientists, doctors, engineers, people who know full well that the journey itself could kill them. But they are the ones paving the way for a much, much larger migration. Chapter 3, The Brutal Reality. When those first pioneers finally step off the ship, they are walking out onto an utterly hostile world. Instead of our comfortable blue sky, they're going to look up at a pink to butterscotch-colored sky, which is caused by iron oxide dust just hanging in the air. Instead of the gravity we're used to, they'll experience only 38% of Earth's gravity. So yeah, you'd feel significantly lighter, but over time your body would actually start to change in ways we don't fully understand yet. And the temperature? It plummets from a comfortable Earth average of 15 degrees Celsius to a freezing average of minus 60 degrees Celsius on Mars, and it goes all the way down to minus 125 degrees at the poles. On top of all that, Mars doesn't have a global magnetic field. That means cosmic and solar radiation just mercilessly bombards the surface. And the atmosphere itself? Completely deadly. It's 95% carbon dioxide, there is practically zero oxygen, and the atmospheric pressure is less than 1% of Earth's. To put it as bluntly as possible, without a pressurized suit, a human would be dead in seconds. Chapter 4, Ingenuity and Survival. So how on Earth, or rather how on Mars, do we actually survive those early decades? Well, human resilience and scientific ingenuity are going to have to work in absolute overdrive. Early settlers will rely heavily on robotic pre-deployment. Basically, machines will set up the essentials before humans even arrive. For Phase 1 survival, the very first habitats will probably be pressurized inflatable modules, placed deep underground. They'll be shielded by meters of rocky Martian soil just to protect everyone from the radiation. For food, we're looking at small artificial light greenhouses. And it's funny, just like in the movie The Martian, scientists have actually confirmed we could grow modified crops like potatoes, sweet potatoes, and radishes. For water, we'll extract it by heating the Martian soil to capture vapor from underground ice deposits. And for air, Get this, NASA's MOXIE experiment on the Perseverance rover has already proven that we can manufacture oxygen directly from Mars' CO2 atmosphere.
Chapter 5: The Grand Vision.
Now, if we fast forward about 100 years to the late 2100s, the goal isn't just to have a cramped underground settlement. The grand vision is a thriving city of 1 million people living under kilometers-wide glass domes. These domes will be completely sealed off from the deadly atmosphere outside, but on the inside, they'll be filled with breathable air, green parks, buildings, and streets. It's essentially going to be a small Earth city powered by nuclear plants and massive solar farms. People will cruise around in electric vehicles adapted for the rocky terrain, and eventually pressurized tunnels will connect all the different settlements together. But here's a wild thought. Because of the vast distance between the two planets, communication with Earth is going to have a 3 to 22-minute delay each way, depending on planetary alignment. That means real-time phone calls are physically impossible. Martians will have to communicate entirely through delayed messages. And because of this extreme isolation, they're going to develop an entirely independent culture. They'll invent completely new gravity-defying sports. I mean, imagine a basketball game where you can jump 3 times higher. They'll develop new art, new language patterns, and eventually, they'll probably view themselves as a completely new chapter of humanity. Chapter 6: Terraforming a New Earth. Okay, this is probably the most mind-blowing concept in our entire explainer today. The deep future process of transforming Mars into a second Earth. This would take hundreds or even thousands of years. Let's walk through this monumental engineering feat chronologically. Step 1. Warm the planet. Scientists have proposed placing giant mirrors in Mars' orbit to focus sunlight directly on the poles, which would melt the ice caps and kickstart a greenhouse effect. Step 2. As the planet warms, frozen CO2 and water vapor are released, which thickens the atmosphere and raises the surface pressure. Step 3. Introduce liquid water. As temperatures keep rising and the ice melts, rivers and lakes will actually return to the Martian surface. And finally, Step 4. Seed the planet with engineered bacteria and algae that produce oxygen through photosynthesis. Over thousands of years, that atmosphere actually becomes breathable. We're talking blue skies, rain, and real oceans on Mars. Chapter 7: The Existential Risks. Of course, we do have to ground this incredibly ambitious vision back in reality. An impartial look at the sources reveals some monumental hurdles that could literally derail the entire mission. First, we have the unpredictable health effects. We honestly just don't know what growing up in 38% gravity does to a human child over time. Then there's the severe psychological toll of living your entire life in a closed habitat, never feeling an open sky. We also don't fully know the impacts of high radiation on human reproduction. On top of that, there is the absolute necessity of total independence. Think about it. If a supply ship from Earth fails, a colony that isn't completely self-sufficient simply dies. And finally, there's the complex politics of it all. Who actually owns Mars? Who gets to make the laws for 1 million people living millions of miles away? Chapter 8: The Roadmap to the Future. Yet, despite all these risks, the plans are moving full steam ahead. Here's exactly when humanity aims to hit these science fiction-like milestones. The 2030s should see the very first permanent human settlement established. By the 2050s, we plan to be building nuclear power plants and much larger habitats. The 2060s and 2070s is when we expect the first actual city with thousands of residents. By the 2100s, the population could reach hundreds of thousands. And in the far future, that's when we'll see those massive terraforming experiments begin at scale. Seriously, think about this for a second. The very first humans to step foot on Mars are likely alive right now, maybe even learning about this timeline right alongside you. Which brings us to a really famous quote from the legendary Carl Sagan back in 1994. He said, "Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand." At the time, he noted that there was simply nowhere else for our species to migrate to in the near future. But here we are, 30 years later, and we are about to prove Carl Sagan gloriously, wonderfully wrong, as we take our very first steps toward becoming a true interplanetary species. And that leaves us with the ultimate question as we wrap up our explainer today. Would you move to Mars if you had the chance? Knowing everything we just talked about, the brutal journey, the extreme hostile conditions, the sheer ingenuity required to survive, and the grand vision of the future, would you take that ticket? It's the ultimate human adventure, and the craziest part is that this future is being built right now, one rocket engine at a time. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I absolutely cannot wait to explore the next fascinating topic with you.